Hi, everyone. So I have a good news, good news sandwich for you all to start this show. The first piece of good news is this Sunday, May 18th at 4 p.m., I am teaching a yoga class for our listeners. Yes, me. And it's happening at the place that is the very reason I decided to stay on the Seacoast, Three Bridges Yoga in downtown Portsmouth. The class is free. No signups are needed. Just show up. Bring your own mat if you have one, but we'll also have plenty available for you as well. It's a 60-minute class, and I really hope to see you there. Now, the bad news. After today's show, there's only 3 episodes left in Season 2 of Seacoast Stories. But the other good news is we'll only take a 2-week break from new episodes, and then we're on to Season 3. The first episode will be our live podcast at the Word Barn on June 19th. On this special night, the subject of our most popular Season 2 episode, Jay Collins of Flight House Gym, will kick off the night. Then, Alyssa Pine, the creator of one of the most talked about Seacoast businesses, the Live Freely Market, will join me next. And in our main event of the evening, the inspiring, captivating, and perhaps even polarizing Assistant Mayor of Portsmouth, Joe Kelly, will take the stage. Plus, we'll play Seacoast trivia and we'll hand out some prizes given to us by other Season 2 guests, like Flamingo's Coffee Bar, Read More Books, Loaded Question Brewing, and more. We'd love to see you there on June 19th. Tickets available now in the show notes. Now on to the episode. Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I'm Troy Farkas, and on today's episode, my conversation with 2 leaders from Gather, perhaps the Seacoast's most notable nonprofit and one of the oldest social programs in the country. Food insecurity is a massive problem in this country, and Gather, whose mission is to provide innovative and dignified solutions to end hunger, is leading the charge for addressing this issue, which plagues so many households across the Seacoast. In 2024 alone, Gather distributed 1.7 million pounds of food. They served an average of nearly 11,000 people each month, a 25% increase from 2023, and provided 90,000 prepared meals, up 34% from the year prior. This year, thanks to an unstable economy and cuts in federal funding, Gather is facing its own set of challenges. More on that later with Ann Hayes, Gather's executive director, and Kate Constantine, their community engagement manager and one of the Seacoast's most impressive young professionals. Plus, we'll discuss the machine behind Gather and the nearly 300 volunteers Gather puts to work every month. We'll also discuss how you can get involved with their 2 tentpole events coming up in June, the truth about working for a nonprofit, and what it's like watching Seacoast citizens shop at the Gather Market for free. Today's episode is presented by Holistic and Hormonal and Meconi Financial. And to begin, Ann Hayes speaks to my history-loving heart by giving the brief backstory of Gather.
Gather was founded by women from Strawberry Bank, which is most people know, a historic section of Portsmouth. They came together to feed the families of fishermen when the men were out at sea and making sure that people had enough food. It was founded as the Ladies Humane Society, which at this point makes it sound like it was for pets, but it wasn't. It was for people, and changed names over time. At one point it was the Family Welfare Society. The Family Service Association became Seacoast Family Food Pantry in the 2000s, and in 2016 became Gather. But throughout that time, it was in continuous operations, feeding people throughout 209 years, I believe.
Wow, way to condense 209 years into 45 seconds.
We're working on it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's, obviously it's changed a lot in the past 200 years, but the mission is still the same, still community driven, still looking out for our neighbors. And, as is a lot of places on the Seacoast that you've highlighted, like all about community and giving back.
Yeah. The mission statements, can you tell me what it is off the top of your head?
Gather's mission is to build innovative programs that, It is, wait, you're testing me here. Gather's mission is to offer innovative programs that build food security in welcoming and dignified ways.
One sentence, and there's a lot to that.
Yes.
So let's break that
Let's
down.
unpack that.
Dignified ways. What do you mean dignified?
So when folks come in, we want to make sure that everything that we put out is dignified. We want to respect people. Like, it's already hard enough, especially here in New Hampshire. We have very rugged individualist ways, I think. I think we're very hesitant to ask for help when we need it. And, we know that there's already barriers for folks, even just to come in through our doors, mental barriers. And so we want to make sure that when people come in, they feel respected. We don't put out food that we wouldn't eat ourselves. And we want to make sure that we're also emphasizing choice. That's a huge part of our model. We have a low barrier, high dignity choice model. So we always provide folks with a lot of fruits and veggies, milk and eggs, proteins. We want to give them the option to pick what they think will be best for them and their family. And that's always been a huge part of our model.
Now, how do we do that, Anne? Because a lot of organizations, especially who are making stuff en masse, and there's a lot of people who take advantage of the stuff at Gather. You could definitely cut corners. You could definitely go the cheap route, the fast route, but I just toured everything that you guys have here, and it's intentional. Stuff that takes time, stuff that is healthy and nutritious, which is often not the easiest way to do it. So how do you guys pull this off?
We believe that everyone should have the right to access a fresh, healthy food. So that's a big part of what we do, is to ensure that we have that. And we purchase for the pantry and the mobile markets, we purchase pretty much all of the milk that we provide, all of the eggs, and a lot of the produce, because we want to make sure that it's really fresh. We do purchase community-supported agriculture shares from local farmers in the summer, so we make sure we have some farm fresh food as well. And I think that one of the intentional things we do is place that as people walk into the pantry market. So the first thing they see is that there's really nice either herbs or veggies or fruit that's available for them. And it sends a message that they're worth it and that we think they're worth it to provide that kind of food. As Kate said, I think, people have to take a big step to walk in the door. It's a little bit of a blow to the ego to have to admit that you need a food pantry. I mean, it's not something that most people want to have to do. And we want to make sure that when people come in, they feel welcomed by our volunteers and our staff, that people ask them if they can help them, that they can walk around and look and see what they might want to have for their family, that there's choices. For example, we do have dairy-free milks. We have gluten-free breads and crackers and stuff. All that vegan things are available because you don't have to be wealthy to have dietary needs and dietary sensitivities. So we want to make sure we provide things that people can eat. And one of the issues, I think, with people getting a box of food from somewhere is a lot of times that results in more food waste, because if you don't pick what it is, sometimes people just don't know what to do with it, or, they have preferences or tastes that just don't agree with them. And so we want to make sure they can pick and choose what they actually will eat so that what they take home with them will get on their tables.
And I know reducing food waste is another big value that you guys have here. So I want to talk about that in a moment. But you really caught my attention with this blow to the ego, people not wanting to necessarily admit it. Kate, why do you think that is? Why are people a little bit self-conscious about coming here?
Well, I think there's this huge stigma around food insecurity. And I think it's really a societal issue. Like, there's this idea that if you can't support your family, you've failed in some sort of way. And that's not the case. And especially now, that's not the case. We're seeing more and more people than ever that are walking through our doors. And it's not the kind of people that people would traditionally think would need a food pantry. I mean, we were talking recently with a teacher. She has one young child and her spouse is a firefighter. Those are two jobs that very recently would have been middle class, very good wage. I mean, those are people that are serving our community in so many ways every day. And, they're having trouble deciding between bills and groceries. And, it's a lot of people are having to make those tough choices, especially right now. I think everyone knows how expensive food is.
I've heard that.
Yes. Oh, you've heard that. And some people don't think, and some people don't realize that food is super expensive. But I think it's something that's affecting a lot of us. And there's so many factors that can lead people to having to make those tough choices. Student loan payments, housing right here on the Seacoast, medical bills. You could get in an accident, or your car could break down, and okay, there's like $1,000 drained in the bank that you normally would spend for rent and food. There's so many situations that lead people to here. And I think just as human beings, we're very hard on ourselves, and any decision, even if it's not in our control, is going to lead us to believe that we failed. And even if it's a decision that we did control that leads us to needing to walk through our doors, like Anne said, everyone deserves access to food.
Yeah. You said there's been an uptick in people coming through the doors. And I'm wondering how you view that. Do you view that as a win? Hey, people know more about Gather. Or is it, no, wait, people, I don't want this many people because that means there's a bigger problem. How do you view it?
I think it's more, we wish that it wasn't the case, because we don't want to see more people who are struggling to put food on the table. And we want to be there for the people that need us. So it's a both and, I guess you would say, that, we both feel that we want to do everything we can to help people work their way out of food insecurity. That's why our mission is to build food security. So what can we do? It's an income issue, right? Income versus expenses. And if either they're not making enough doing the work that they're doing, or, they're on a fixed income like many seniors and they can't stretch that as far as they used to, or it's because housing prices, food prices, fuel prices, all the prices are up so much that people just can't afford it. So we would encourage people to come together and use our resources so that they can then pay their rent, because we don't want people to get behind on something like their rent or their taxes or whatever, because there's a tipping point there, right? Once you become unhoused, it becomes very difficult to get back on your feet. So we want to do everything we can to provide a little room in the budget for people and a little cushion for people so that they can meet the needs of their other bills and get what they need from us.
And Kate, what are the requirements for someone to be able to qualify for receiving food from Gather?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, a big part of our model is low barrier. And that's because of, a lot of reasons that Anne just described. We know there's a lot of people that are at our doors that might not on paper look like they need help. They might not qualify for SNAP or WIC or other welfare programs. So we try to keep it very low barrier. If you are a resident of New Hampshire or Maine, you are eligible to come shop with us. So that's it. Everyone is required to register. So you become a member in our system so we can check you in. For the pantry market, folks can shop once a month or once a week if they're unhoused or in transitional housing. But our mobile markets, folks can shop at whenever they'd like. And our mobile markets are basically, if people can't come to us, we'll come to them. So we'll pack up a truck and we'll fill it with the same things they can get at the pantry, set up a farmer's market style mobile market, and bring it out to Rochester, Dover, Somersworth, some other low-income areas in housing in Portsmouth and Hampton, Seabrook, trying to get all over the place. But if you live in New Hampshire or Maine and you need food, you can sign up and you can come get food. And it's completely free. I've had people bring their shopping cart and go, "Where do I check out?" And I'm like, "No, it's free." We do have to weigh everything out because we, inventory purposes. But yeah.
Do you find, because it's free and because being a resident here is the only qualification, that people who shouldn't come?
You always think there's got to be some people sort of gaming the system. We always get questions about that. I think it's hard enough to walk through the door that the number of people who might be gaming the system at a food pantry would be fairly small. And we look at it as there are so many hoops to jump through, hurdles to get over in accessing a lot of services that we try and make this a lot easier for people to access and not raise the barriers up for the 95% of people who are here, for justifiable reasons, because there might be 4 or 5% of the people we see who don't need us as much. So it's a choice that we make, and we think it's the right decision to serve the community better.
And it's so easy to make judgments too. Like, we had a gentleman come in right before the pantry was about to close, and, he walks up and he's in a really nice suit, like looks like he just came from like looks like he could have just come from a job on Wall Street. And, he comes in and he's like, I'm so sorry. I just started a new job yesterday and, my hours are changed. So I really can't get to the pantry until like right before 5. And we said, no, come and get your prepared meals. And, if you look closer at a suit, like it was a little bit frayed at the edges, like, but people come in and, someone's in the parking lot with a new Mercedes and like, you don't know when they bought that, or you don't know if they're borrowing it from someone so they can get to a job interview or so they can get somewhere to apply for housing. And yeah, I think to Anne's point, why are you coming through the door? And we don't want to make these judgments when people already feel bad enough having to come in.
Take me into the average day here, Kate. If someone is shopping at the Gather pantry, take me into that experience. Paint that picture.
Sure. So we open at 9 and we close at 5. Oh, sorry, we open at 10. Okay, so we open at 10 and we close at 5, except for Fridays, we close at 2. But average day, our team...
And not open on weekends.
Not open on weekends, no. So average day, our team comes in, and some days we have people waiting out in the parking lot before even our staff comes in at 8 a.m., which is, it's hard to see. So our team will come in, we'll have a group of volunteers in the pantry. They'll start setting up the shelves, go through the food, see if anything's kind of gone bad overnight, start stocking with new things. If we get any new inventory that comes in, part of what we want to do is make sure that we're rotating inventory so nothing goes to waste, making sure that those delicious, wonderful things are in stock. I always like to make sure that the pantry looks like a rainbow, and then our, warehouse crew will get ready to go. We have a group of volunteers in the morning that will go off to the local grocery stores. So they'll go to Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Hannaford, and pick up excess donations from there. And then those things that would have gone into the landfill will come onto our shelves and we'll sort through those. And then next door in our other warehouse, our mobile market team will start packing up for whatever mobile market they're doing for the day. And we'll have a group of volunteers that will help them load up. And I just have to give a shout out to our volunteer team, because without the amount of volunteers we have right now, we would have to hire,
14
more staff people.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have,
That's
it's
about
something
what
like 200 plus a month, right?
It's closer to 300 a month.
That's crazy.
But it's
50 a day.
40 to 50 a day to run the programs. And the hours that they give are equivalent to an extra 14 full-time employees.
Wow.
Yeah, every month.
Why do you think there's so many volunteers who are so willing to hop aboard?
Yeah, I think we offer a lot of options because we have so many different kinds of programs. We're able to offer a lot of different options as to what kind of volunteering you could do. You could be the person who greets people as they come into the pantry. You could be somebody who's stocking the shelves or helping people with their milk and eggs. You could be in the warehouse if you need a little extra exercise, lifting the boxes, putting things, getting the food.
I
know. See, it's a
can
great...
I count on that?
Yeah,
I love lifting things.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's good exercise, right? You could be cooking in our Cooking for Community program. You could be helping students at the cafe that we run at Great Bay Community College. There's just lots of different options. And then on top of that, we have a great volunteer database and scheduling program that allows people to sign up. You could sign up for one shift a year. You could sign up for a shift every single day. You could mix up where you're going. You could be like the pantry person every Monday morning and never vary. So there's just a lot of options. And I think the other thing is because we have so many volunteers, a lot of people who have moved here or who have, don't know a lot of people, they meet new friend groups here.
I love that.
Yeah, that was one of the things that a lot of volunteers talk about. I have a book group for my Gather volunteers, or I have a tennis group or whatever. So it's been nice.
And it's great. And it's really like, I think there's so many beautiful little families that have formed from Gather. And so I think a lot of people too that I've seen that are volunteers tell me that before they started at Gather, they didn't really realize that food insecurity was a problem on the Seacoast, because a lot of them are, they retired early or they are from a more affluent family where they don't have to work. And this is an opportunity for them to kind of understand the need, and also like all of the different faces of food insecurity and all of the different faces.
No one has told me this, and I don't know if there's a way to quantify this, but I would say that Gather is like the Seacoast nonprofit based on the history, the sheer number of volunteers, the number of people whose lives you are affecting, and just this whole operation, which you are about to expand, is truly mind-blowing. as the executive director, does all of that weigh on you? Just the gravity of the problem, the history of it. What is that like?
Well, I think part of it, one of the hard things is realizing that this problem has been around on the Seacoast and throughout the country and really throughout the world forever, basically. And for 200 plus years, Gather's been working on this problem. And unfortunately, the hard part is that the problem hasn't gone away. It's actually grown bigger. We saw...
Despite more access to food than ever.
Right. But less access to community support, social supports, prices are going up, all the things that we've talked about. But, at the same time, we feel really strongly that we should both, what we think about it as, we should both be serving the line, in other words, addressing that immediate hunger need, but we should also be working to shorten the line. So we should be working on things that will help build food security, and that's either helping people get access to things that will help reduce their expenses, like SNAP or the Granite State Market Match, or, some housing assistance or fuel assistance. And we should be thinking about what can we do to help our members and the people that we serve gain skills so they are more employable, so that they might be able to get a higher paying job, so that they, have access to, the income side of it. And we start to lift people out of that. Unfortunately, right now, given the instability in the economy and given some of the cuts that are happening on the federal level, it's getting more challenging, not less.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You recently penned an article, an op-ed for Seacoast Online. We are speaking a few weeks before this episode actually airs. Everything's been changing.
It could change again.
Every
There could be
other
a new
day.
article
So
out
let's hope
before
it
this even
changes
comes
in a
out.
better direction for us.
So just on the day that we are speaking right now, let's dive a little deeper. What's going on at the federal level and how is it trickling down to what you guys do at Gather?
Yeah, so some of the stuff that's already happened for the U.S. on the USDA side, there's been a lot of cuts. So the Emergency Food Assistance Program, acronym TFAP, that we get a percentage of food, the food that we distribute comes from there. That's been cut in half. Half the funding's been frozen. And, we are one of the biggest food access organizations in New Hampshire. And so when we go to pick up at TFAP, we have, our big box trucks and stuff, and we can take more food than most organizations can. So we kind of thought, all right, yeah, it's going down, but, they always have extra food for us. So normally, let's say we get 11 or 12,000 pounds of food on a pickup. The last time we went, we got 8. And they said, this is what you should expect going forward because we are not going to see the same level that we've had.
Yeah. To put it in perspective, we used to go in the morning, load up our box trucks can fit up to 8 pallets of food. We'd go in the morning, pick up like 6 pallets, and then have to go back in the afternoon and get like 2 more pallets of food. Now 8,000 pounds, it's more like, okay, doing our one stop in the morning and all right, you guys can go. Yeah.
So that piece, then funding was cut for the local food access program where the farmers were being paid. The funding was coming from the federal government to the New Hampshire Food Bank, which was doing New Hampshire Feeding New Hampshire and contracting with farmers to buy their food. That's been cut completely. So that's $1 million of food bank funding that has gone away. And, you can kind of see people might say, well, do you really need to buy local food? It's more expensive or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, it's not that they cut the local aspect. All of the funding went away. So that doesn't exist anymore. And that will trickle down to us as well. And then so I feel like we aren't funded by the federal government. We're funded by individuals, foundations, corporations, and so on. We have a lot of great, generous people on the Seacoast that are helping us, which is incredible. But those things will have an impact on us. It may not be this much was cut out of our budget because we didn't get this much federal funding, but it will be because where the food comes from. So our food supplies will go down and we'll have to purchase that food. Unfortunately, the prices are going up. So the food we purchase is going to cost more. And people are seeing the same price increases, are seeing the same cuts in benefits and stuff. And so there's going to be more of them that need it. So it's classic supplies going down, demands going up, and we're in the middle of all that.
And on top of that, yes, we don't get funding from the federal government, but a lot of our fellow nonprofit partners in the Seacoast get a ton of funding from the federal government or from the state government. New Hampshire just passed a big budget cut. And so like a lot of folks in the Seacoast that provide family services and housing services and healthcare and mental health care, they're getting a big portion of their funding cut, which means that a lot of the families that rely on that are going to have to cut corners out elsewhere. And oftentimes that means food.
And what has that roller coaster been like emotionally for you dealing with that?
It's not awesome. It's just not awesome. No, my heart goes out to the people that we serve, and they get very nervous. I think, Jill, who drives our fresh food bus named Gus, she said, people are just nervous that we're not going to be able to be there for them. And, we keep saying we'll be there for them, but we have to figure that out. And I think for us, it's, unfortunately, if the federal government and also the state government are going to step back from doing that, then we need the community to step in, to lean in and help us and other nonprofits to meet the need, because the need is not going away. The need is just increasing.
If you're like most people, financial planning might feel overwhelming. Whether you're trying to save for your first home, plan for retirement, or if you'd like to cut back on the amount of spending you're doing at all the Seacoast restaurants, Meconi Financial is here to help put you on the right path. And I promise, they're not some big faceless institution. They're local, with locations in Portsmouth and Bedford, and they're genuinely committed to helping folks in our community make smart financial decisions. Their team, led by Art and Jen Meconi, brings decades of experience to the table, and they work with you to create a personalized strategy, a strategy that may just include sage advice like, hey, Troy, did you really need to get that third espresso martini at Cup of Joe? Or don't you know that you have to actually pay at the parking meters? You can't just skip it and act like they don't exist? These tickets you're racking up are ridiculous. Okay, they're nicer than that, I swear. Art and Jen are actually two of my favorite people on the Seacoast, and they're two of the biggest supporters of this podcast. And if you've been thinking of starting your financial planning journey, then please look no further than Meconi Financial Management and Advisory. To learn more, just visit the link in today's show notes. Speaking of journeys, I hear dealing with hormones is also quite the up and down experience. Now, I know I may not be the target demo for this, but nonetheless, Seacoast Stories is so happy to partner with Holistic and Hormonal, led by Dr. Whitney Elsesser. She's a doctor of nursing practice, a certified midwife, and she helps women navigate the wild ride of hormones, from PMS to perimenopause, perimenopause, I don't know, you know what I mean, and everything in between. She takes a whole person approach to health. That means personalized care, root cause solutions, and no one-size-fits-all nonsense. Now, I may not know what it's like to feel both bloated and starving at the same time, but I do know Dr. Whitney's clients swear by her. She's the real deal, compassionate, kind, and doing the work needed to get you back to feeling like your best self. So if you or a woman you love has been told everything looks normal, but it definitely doesn't feel that way, then head to holisticandhormonal.com, and in the contact box, just write the word hormones, and Dr. Whitney will contact you to set up your free lab test so that you can get to the root of your problem and back to the life you love. Thank you, Holistic and Hormonal, and thank you to Meconi Financial for supporting today's episode. Now back to today's story. Now, why did you want to work for a nonprofit? Because, I've never worked in a nonprofit, but it's my understanding that, the pay is not great. You wear many, many hats beyond your title, and things like happening at the federal level can affect you, and nonprofit's just a grind.
I don't really know what you're talking about. I rake in like 8 figures a year, and I'm never stressed. And no, just kidding. No, that's funny. I actually had a family friend that when I started working for Gather said, so nonprofits, that's like what you want to do. And I was like, yeah, it makes me feel good. And he was like, well, you're not going to make a lot of money. And I was like, what? No. That's the first time hearing of that.
Sold me a bill of goods.
Sorry, I just screamed into the microphone. No, I went to school for political science, that I wanted to go to law school.
And women's and gender studies too.
And women's and gender studies, yes. I thought I wanted to go to law school, and then realized, law school sounds really hard. But also, not only does law school sound really hard and expensive, but I wouldn't be able to do the direct work that I want to do. It would be like, I'm sitting at a desk doing paperwork for 5 hours, and then eventually maybe I'll be able to help out a client. I worked for a completely different nonprofit in London. I worked for an anti-trafficking organization, which my heart goes out to all the social workers out there. Oh my God, you're doing such incredible, wonderful work. I was like, I want to do something that has direct impact on people, but something that I'm particularly passionate about, where every single day I can feel hopeful. I can feel like I'm doing something, but also like maybe I can have a little bit of fun while I'm doing it. So, starting to work for an organization where it's like some days I get to be on a podcast and some days I drive a truck and some days I think in general, like I graduated college in 2021 and obviously the political landscape was very complicated. And I was like, I feel like I have a duty to do something. And it's really, I think it's a lot of people in nonprofits agree with this. It's very hard to not feel like any failure that you do is like, I don't know how to describe it. I think a lot of people in nonprofits feel the similar burden where, any little mistake that you do, it's like my humanness is not contributing to the mission. And that's something that I have to struggle with sometimes. And it's hard it's hard when you hear, okay, we're getting a 30% decrease in in-kind donation. It's hard not to feel like, okay, now we have to fix this. And that's going to require a lot of collaboration. That's going to require a lot of teamwork. And that's going to require a lot of mental stress on everyone. So it's also just important, I think, for us as a team to stick with our staff and check in on each other. And that's the same goes for so many other people working in nonprofits.
Yeah, I spoke to someone on the show who was a nurse, and she ultimately left nursing because she saw that she was taking the work home with her and she just couldn't emotionally handle it. So I'm wondering for you two probably run into some things that make you feel when you're here doing this kind of work. You are human beings. You see people struggling, asking for help and coming to you. So I'm just wondering, Anne, how do you deal with it emotionally working in this space and trying to, stay uplifted all the time, even though there's oftentimes some circumstances that are not uplifting?
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think sometimes it is really hard to see the people lined up outside. And, I pop over into the pantry and chat with people a little bit and see what's going on. But I think part of it is, the commitment of the staff, the commitment of the volunteers, the creativity that we see here of how to solve the problems. I think I like problem solving. I've worked in the private sector before and really enjoyed it at the time, but couldn't imagine going back now because I feel like the work that we do is so meaningful that I never think to myself, I wonder why I do this work, because it's so clear every day why I do this work. And, it's hard because this is not, sometimes people say, oh, well, or I'll hear from somebody, you should project out, your finances and stuff for the next 3 to 5 years. And I think to myself, I can't necessarily project out what's going to happen next week. I don't know how many people are going to come through the door needing our help. I don't know how much food we're going to get. I don't know how we're going to manage to meet that gap.
You don't know if your truck is going to break down or get
you
an
don't
accident.
know when a truck's going to break down, when the fridge is going to go on the blink, and we'll have to move everything onto a refrigerated truck overnight so that we can just keep the food at temp. There is always something. I call my mom. My mom is almost 90 years old, and I touch base with her on my way home every day. And she said to me the other day, geez, it's always something, isn't it? I said, it is always something, but on another level, it's never dull. It's never dull. And it's always interesting because, we're trying to, there's no revenue as such in a quote business like Gather, right? It's in-kind food and it's donations. And we're not giving anything to anyone, nothing concrete. They don't get anything concrete for what they invest in us. They get to know that they're part of this solution. Mm-hmm. And that's important to a lot of people, thank God, because we're asking people to give their money to something that they don't get anything back from, right, except the knowledge that they're helping. And on the other side of things, the expenses, the more people we need, the more trucks we need, the more food we need. And so it's a constant battle to try and keep up, but it's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of local Seacoast sponsors, some, yes, big brands and small brands. How difficult is it to get the community support from that way? Is it like you're fighting for every dollar, or is it, Gather, like easy, yes, we'll sign the check? I
don't know that I'd say easy.
It depends on the organization or the sponsor or the company, though. I would say, that's a huge part of our job. And you have those very, very special companies or donors that, you tell them, oh yeah, this thing just happened, and they're like, what can I do? Can I write a check? Can I do an event? Can I blah blah blah? Can I do blah blah? And you're like, yeah, wow, awesome. And then some other people, they're like, we will respond to you within 5 to 7 business days and determine whether or not you. I was talking with someone recently who he's a great supporter of ours, and he said, philanthropy really should be for the arts. It shouldn't be for, should we decide if we want to make sure people are fed or not? Or do we want to decide if we want to make sure people are housed or not? But unfortunately, that's this place that we are living in.
Yeah, and I would add just that we do have a lot of donors, and that includes some companies that are consistent donors to us. And they every year come back and give us money to make sure that we can keep running our programs. And I think that's like, I have to admit, leaving the Boston area and that nonprofit space and coming up here, I was a little bit wondering if there was going to be enough of a community of donors to support this. And I am blown away by the generosity of this community. And yes, we need to work really hard to raise all the money that we need. And it's a great community to try and do that in.
Yeah. To the point we made earlier about how it's difficult to overcome the ego and ask for help and ask for food. I'm wondering, is it difficult for you guys to ask the community for money to support what you have going on here?
I always say I would rather be the one that it gets to write the check instead of ask for the check.
Yeah.
But then
It's gotta be difficult.
But then I talk with, I'll give a shout out to Brandy McKay-Berry from Service Credit Union, who I work with a lot, and they're great sponsors of ours. But, I said that to her one time. I was like, it must be nice to write out the checks. And she's like, oh my God, you have no idea. There's so many great nonprofits around here. And the fact that I have to
decide.
It's difficult too. It's all around just the fact that things need to be funded. It's, complicated. Money always gets complicated too. You never talk about money on a first date. And then when you have to talk about it for your job, it's.
That being said, and you should give Kate a raise so that she can get to that 8 figures.
Don't think we're going to get her to 8 figures.
Why not?
Maybe next year when the economy's a little better, hopefully. Being innovative is a part of what you guys do here, and so you have some fun events coming up this summer. June 10th, I believe.
Yes.
What's going on then, Kate?
June 10th, we're going back to our roots. We're going to Strawberry Bank. We're going to be under the big tent, and that is going to be our gala. And we are going to invite in almost 400 individuals that are going to be learning about some new exciting developments that we're doing. They're going to be donating. They're going to be eating and drinking some delicious food and beverages. And it's going to be a great evening of community. So tickets are on sale now for that.
Okay. Anyone can go?
Anyone can go.
Okay. We'll put the link in the show notes for people to go to the gala.
Or if you are a company, you could be one of those wonderful companies that we mentioned earlier, and you could sponsor. We're still looking for sponsors.
Okay. Cool. So what is this night going to entail more specifically? What if I buy a ticket, what am I getting out of this?
Yeah. So it's, so
what
Troy,
do I get?
Troy, I hope you would, maybe wear a suit. It's cocktail attire. Wear something you'd wear to a wedding.
Okay.
And show up, and we're going to have a cocktail hour where people come in, and we're going to have some little mission moments. So when you walk around and you get an appetizer, and Ornell's will be there.
Heck yes.
Yes.
You come in and grab an app, and while you're eating and mingling, you're also learning. So this special event is going to be the kickoff of a campaign to launch New England's first community food center. So,
ooh, what's that?
Exciting.
What is that? So Gather has been looking for space for about the past 6 or 7 years here in Portsmouth because we wanted to stay where we started. And so we finally found a space over at 124 Heritage Ave, and we started construction. And so part of what we're building has a teaching kitchen where we can work with our members to learn, as our culinary director calls it, life skills and knife skills, and get them to a place where they can find sustainable employment. So part of this, it's very exciting. We're running a capital campaign. We'll be running a capital campaign, and part of it will be this gala event where all of the proceeds from this event will go towards the new building and the new construction that we're doing. So it is in process right now. So,
Heck yeah. Congratulations.
So they're digging up stuff.
There's a lot of dirt on the ground right now.
And it's very exciting, but we are looking forward to getting some more funding for it. And we're a little out over our skis at the moment, but we're going to get there.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Well, that's very exciting. Kate, what are you guys going to be doing in this new space that you aren't able to do right now?
Well, we're going from 6,000 square feet to 18,000 square feet. So
it's big.
I see you nodding. That's a lot. That's hard to wrap our heads around. So in addition to expanded access and programming, I'm really just excited to have a larger space to work with. We're going from right now in our current space, we have 2 separate warehouses. So like anytime our team needs a box of spaghetti sauce and it's all the way down at the other warehouse, you have to get in a van or you have to drag a cart down. It's just not super sustainable. So a bigger expanded warehouse, larger walk-in freezer and fridge, which will also be exciting, not only so that we can store more things, but we can cut down on food waste. We bring in as many donations as possible so we can try to not only put more food out on people's plates, but also keep food out of the landfill. We have a coalition we launched last May called Seacoast Waste Not, and that's a coalition of restaurants, chefs, caterers, wholesalers, cafeterias that are all committed to feeding folks and also reducing food waste in their companies. So we have an amazing team in our cooking program. They are brilliant at repurposing food and turning them into delicious, healthy meals. So they'll go out and go to a restaurant. And a lot of times it's something like Cure in downtown Portsmouth. They have a menu change. They're going from their winter specials to their summer specials now. And they have fish totes full of all the ingredients that they needed for those meals that they don't need anymore. Or DeLuigi, wholesale distributor, they have a mispick that the restaurant they were delivering to accidentally ordered the wrong thing. All right, where's this pallet of food going to go? We got a couple trucks. We got a few vans. We can come pick it up. So, right now with the tiny space in our current kitchen and our current warehouse, it's a lot of people shoving stuff into a big freezer. And so we're excited to have more expanded storage space.
That is amazing. When is this expected to be done by?
September?
Question mark?
She says September with a wide brim smile.
September. It's going to be done in September. No, we really think it will be done in September. And we're working with Sullivan Construction, who's been great.
They're so awesome. Yeah.
And they are doing everything they can to keep costs way down and to get things done in a timely manner. And it is working well so far. So knock on, I'm not sure I have any wood in this office, but knock on something that it'll continue to progress the way it is progressing, because we've really, really had a good experience so far with this.
So by the time you don your hard hat, who knows how far along we're going to be.
All right. So we talked about the gala coming up.
Yes.
And then just shortly after, there's another event coming up, Kate.
There is. Right after. It's going to be, we're going from a wonderful, stunning, beautiful gala, auction items, live auctioneer, paddles, raising a ton of money. It's going to be wonderful, to back on the truck. Picture this. Picture this, Troy. Stick with me. 11 years ago, an awesome group consisting of one of our former board members, Scott McKee, Denise Wheeler, who's a teacher and local community organizer, and Monty Bohannon, now with the city of Portsmouth, but formerly of the Music Hall, all got together and said, well, there's 900 kids on the seacoast, almost 900 kids on the seacoast that go hungry every single summer when school's not in session and they don't have access to lunch and breakfast. And Gather serves those kids during school breaks with our Meals for Kids program. There's 900 seats in the historic music hall. What if we filled a bag of food for every seat in the music hall, and that would represent a child that was hungry on the seacoast? And what if we took that beautiful marquee and Chestnut Street, that beautiful brick? How many times can I say beautiful in one sentence? But if you've been to the music hall, you know what I mean. Yeah. But what if we have a drive-through food drive? What if people come up, drop off donations, And then the team at Gather loads them up in the music hall on a beautiful June in downtown Portsmouth. And that would help Gather to be able to collect the amount of food that they need for their summer meal program. So that's what we've been doing for the past 11 years. And it's an awesome community event. So like I said, it's a drive-through food drive. So I'm encouraging folks right now to go online to gathernation.org/fill-the-hall or reach out to me and sign up to be a food drive captain and recruit your friends and family. Say, hey, leave some donations out on your porch or come bring them to my house. You can make a party out of it. And then we're going to drive down to the music hall on Saturday, June 21st from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the teams at Gather in the Music Hall will be collecting some food. We're going to have some tunes. It's going to be a party. Just be aware, though, when you do drive up with your car or bike, we've had some bicycles before too, full of stuff. There will be a team of about 40 volunteers clapping and screaming at you because thank you so much for bringing stuff.
You'll feel very appreciated.
Good.
Yeah, you might see me in like a hot dog costume. We'll see.
Oh.
And then we also banana, maybe something a little healthier. And then we also are collaborating with New Hampshire outright because it's the same day as Portsmouth Pride.
Right.
So we've been collaborating with them for the past couple years to kind of create a weekend of love in Portsmouth. In the past, a lot of people were like, okay, Gather's hugest food drive and Portsmouth Pride. There's going to be too many people in town. I'm just going to avoid it. I'm going to go somewhere else. No, come to town, drop off your food, go grab some brunch, go down to Strawberry Bank for a different event for Portsmouth Pride, and just enjoy like great day of community. At last year's Fill the Hall, we were standing outside. We had some people with posters and flyers, and people were coming down off the street and bringing dollars, and there's Daglin right there. And he was like, the mayor for the uninitiated. And he was like, what a great day. And it was just like great seeing people in town. I think you cover this a lot. Like a lot of people, why would I go to Portsmouth anymore? Something like this, community. Like how awesome is this that these organizations get together every year and do this? And another great story from that event, we had a guy who's walking down the street. Oh, what's going on? And one of our volunteers said, oh, well, this is an annual food drive and fundraiser we do every year for Gather's Meal for Kids program. It's for, kids that need free lunch and breakfast during the school year. And he said, awesome. I was one of those kids, and hands him $100. And like that, I love that. So Fill the Hall, June 21st, Saturday, 9 to 1. Come on through. Are there any other things going on in June? Yes. And then there's also the annual New Hampshire Gives, if people aren't aware. It's from June 10th to June 11th. It's kind of like the statewide version of Giving Tuesday. So all of your favorite local nonprofits and community centers will be asking folks to give on this particular day, big fundraising day. So if you prefer to just like give us like a little bit of money, that's fine. So lots of opportunities to give and get involved. This month.
And back to Fill the Hall, what kind of food items are accepted?
Yeah, so we accept any non-perishable items. We also accept personal care items, but particularly for Fill the Hall, we're looking for items for our Meals for Kids program. So peanut butter and jelly, tuna fish, mac and cheese, oatmeal, cereal is a big one. There's going to be a list on the website as well, a wish list. So give some folks some ideas. But anything in good condition, non-perishable, preferably healthy, low sugar, preferably no glass, please. I don't want to break anything. But yeah, so.
Okay, great. I'll post that link in the show notes as well. And when you guys are at these big tentpole events like a Fill the Hall, like the annual Thanksgiving food drive, which I attended last year to check out, which was just an incredible operation. You guys were running around frenetically. It was
no, we were very calm. There was no chaos.
Kate was in drill sergeant mode. It was a pleasure to see. But when you maybe have the opportunity and to step back and remove yourself and just look at this massive operation that is happening, the number of volunteers, the amount of food, the statistics are crazy. The employees that you have, the fleet of trucks and buses that you have, and just everything that goes into it, knowing how much blood, sweat, and tears have been poured in behind the scenes into
no
these events.
Go ahead.
What is it like for you just to sit back and watch all of that happen?
It's pretty amazing, actually. I'm kind of in awe of what our staff and volunteers are able to accomplish for relatively short money to make it all happen. To think about, there's 8,000 pounds of food that goes through our tiny little warehouses every day. There's, we're feeding close to 10,000 people or more every month on the Seacoast. It's actually pretty amazing when you think about it. And yes, it requires trucks and buses and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! But it really is. It really is an incredible operation, and our staff is so committed. We have people on staff who were former members. We have people on staff who were former volunteers. And I think the one through line of all of it is they're people that are so committed to our mission and love, being a part of this. And I think that makes it all work.
Kate, what about you when you're out of drill sergeant mode?
I'm always in drill sergeant mode. No, just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. It's really powerful. And, yeah, I think like the love that I have for this area and this community, and like seeing what our community can do when you ask them for just a little bit of help. And like, I don't know, I think about our volunteers, I think about a lot of our donors and our supporters and our staff. And like you say, jump and they say how high. And like just seeing real like human interaction, like just seeing people be able to breathe a sigh of relief. It's completely indescribable.
Yeah.
Anne, in your 3+ years here as the executive director at Gather, do any specific moments or memories come to mind for you that really left an impression?
There's a couple of things that come to mind. One was at this last community dinner where a man who was, I think he said he was 92 years old, and he came over to talk to me and said, I just want you to know I wouldn't be here without Gather. And I was like, oh, that's so nice of you to say. And he said, no, I mean it. I rely on the prepared meals that you make. I come into the pantry every day and I get one of these prepared meals and I get extras on Fridays for the weekend. Without that, I can't cook for myself. Without that, I would not be able to be healthy. I probably wouldn't still be here. I wouldn't be on this earth anymore. And I was like, oh, now come tell our cooking, program staff that, because it's just really, and he's not the only one who feels that way. And sometimes you feel like it's overblown to say I wouldn't be here without Gather, like literally. But I think for some people, they are in that position. And then the other thing I think about is we have a board member who's a big volunteer who is often in the pantry, and we have this little, one of those little lending library book things, swap things in there, and he's taken to, having the children's books that are in there. And when families come in or moms come in with their kids, he tries to find a book that the kids will like, and he sends me pictures and sends, the staff pictures of the kids with their books smiling. And I think, it gets to me. I sent something out to the volunteers in April about one of the things that I have thought about a lot is if you heard of Brian Stevenson, he wrote a book called Just Mercy. I saw him speak at Boston College back several years ago, but he talks a lot about the importance of being proximate and coming alongside people who are experiencing difficulties so that you really truly begin to understand the problem, and then you can change the world. And I feel like that's what our volunteers do. That's what our staff does. We get proximate to people who are experiencing food insecurity, and we get to know them a little bit, understand what they like and don't like, understand what they're experiencing, and hopefully understand what it's going to take to change their world and their world experience. And hopefully we can make a difference for them and get them to a better place.
Well, I think you are making a difference here at Gather. With that, Kate and Anne, we have one final question. We ask this same final question at the end of every episode every week, and I will ask it to both of you. Kate, we'll start with you. Knowing what you know now in hindsight about how things have turned out for you, what advice would you give to your younger 21, 22-year-old self
Oh, you adjusted it.
to prepare yourself for what's to come?
Yeah.
Think way back.
Back 4 years ago.
This was like last year.
No, but I'm thinking, listen, you can see my gray hairs. They're not from this job. Not really. But when I was 22, I was a senior in college. It was 2021. I was about to move to Boston on my own for the first time. And something personally I've been grappling with now, because the two letters N and O are very hard for me to say. Leaving college and leaving like my like security blanket and my community there, it was really hard. And even though, I talk so much about how much I love the Seacoast here, and it was hard for me to kind of rediscover my love for this area and like rediscover my own like found family here. But the found family I had there, it was like, oh, I have to go make sure I'm seeing everyone all the time, to like not accept that I was growing up and that we were gonna, people were gonna grow apart. And so I think the thing I've had to teach myself, because you get very burnt out trying to make time for everybody all the time, especially when you work a job that is very mentally stressful sometimes.
Never.
Is you need to accept that the people in your life that love you for a reason, and they're not going anywhere. And, don't break your back by trying to do that. And also I would teach myself to not live with my back, because I've sustained a couple back injuries, not at this job, at a previous job.
Not
Put your legs
ever
into
at
it.
this
Come on.
job.
Yeah. But yeah, no, bend with your knees. I also would have taught myself to work a pallet jack earlier on, because the first time I tried working a pallet jack in front of our warehouse manager was like, it was humiliating.
No one has given that advice to their younger self.
That's a good one.
So always the trailblazer, Kate. And a couple more years of experience than Kate to lean back on. Just a few.
Yeah, just a couple.
What advice would you give to your younger 22-year-old self to prepare her for what's about to come?
Well, the funny part is Kate warned me about this, and I proceeded to, in the midst of what is not, of course, chaos, but a lot here. I totally forgot you were going to ask me this. So,
sorry, Troy.
it's interesting. I was on a totally different path at that point. I got out of college. I worked in strategy consulting for big Fortune 500 companies.
Lame.
And then went back to business school and went in the private sector, worked in brand management, did all the stuff. And then it's funny, I took a lot of years off to raise my kids. And when I thought about going back to work, I thought I just couldn't get excited about that stuff. And I had done some pro bono consulting for nonprofits. And I thought, that's what I want to try. I want to go work for a nonprofit. And I think it's been so fulfilling and rewarding being a part of the nonprofit community over the years that I would say I would advise my 22-year-old self to worry less about how much money and how prestigious the job was I was getting out of college, and think more about purpose and the difference you can make in the world.
That's Ann Hayes and Kate Constantine of Gather. To support Gather's mission of solving food insecurity on the Seacoast, you can volunteer, donate funds, buy a ticket to the Gala, or bring food items to fill the hall. Links to all of these are in today's show notes. That's it for today's episode. But if you see me around town this week, perhaps at Lil's Cafe, Flight's House Gym, or at Three Bridges Yoga on Sunday for our free Seacoast Stories yoga class, then please stop me and say hi. I would love to hear your story. Until next time, everybody, have a great week. Live free or die.